Does anyone know if the Oilers happened to be in France last week, maybe made off with some important historical artifacts from the Louvre? Because that was highway robbery.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Victory Friday edition of Locked On Oilers. I am your host, Nick Zararis. This is my 10th season doing digital hockey content, my 4th as a member here of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I want to thank everyone that is making Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. Locked On Oilers is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we've got your team covered every single day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's absolute insane Friday edition of Locked On Oilers, we're going to walk through what was one of the more roller coaster regular season games that comes to memory for any two teams, let alone the Oilers and the Canadiens. We'll start out by walking through my stream of consciousness over the course of this game. Because as you guys know, I do handwritten notes. I organize my notes by period. We go on. And then I started writing how I was going to do the show. And I know I'm taking a little longer than usual on the intro, but this is sports media stuff. And I think it tells the story. So you're trying to set yourself up here to be able to do this show promptly because it's late. You want to be able to get it out fast so that people who are up late can see it, and then it's up for the people who are going to work in the morning and going to consume it. So with that in mind, we'll start with the stream of consciousness and just the flow of the game. In our second period, we will address the Oilers' problems because my, oh my, do I have a laundry list. And then in our final segment, we'll try and contextualize what this inconsistent, these erratic performances say about this group in terms of performance and maybe a little bit about their mentality. So to start out, as you guys know, my everydayers who are tapped in to Locked On Oilers 5 days a week, watching the shorts, paying attention on social, I am still old school. I still think about this as sports media. I think about this as doing game stories as a journalist. So I'm scribbling notes down. I'm writing down observations. I want things I want to come back to during intermissions or commercial breaks to revisit, to check. And with about 10 minutes to go in this game, I started organizing my thoughts titled under a headline, "The Oilers are a broken hockey team." Because if you'll recall, the Oilers get out to a pretty inauspicious start. Montreal scores first, then the Oilers score 3 in a row. So you're up 3-1 in this game, and you feel really good. You're getting goals from guys like Tomasek, Henrique, and Mangiapane, and you're saying to yourself, okay, we're doing a good job. And then Montreal scores 4 unanswered. So you had a 2-goal lead. You concede 4 straight. You are down 2 goals. Down 2 goals with 10-ish minutes to go, 11-ish minutes to go. And you mount one of the more inauspicious comebacks in the regular season in recent memory. And that's why you can't start writing your game story. And it's an important lesson for everybody because this is one of the tenets, one of the hallmarks, the calling cards of what makes a good hockey team. And this next point is going to be in direct contrast to our second segment because I do not think the Oilers played a good game. And down here in the States on ESPN Plus, we only got the Montreal feed tonight. They didn't have the Oilers feed to pick as a viewing option. So at the very least, I was given a perspective I'm not used to. I'm used to Jack Michaels and Louis DeBrusk giving me what I'm used to and getting the TSN, getting the Habs experience. The Habs broadcast was talking about the Oilers like they were an atrocity to the sport. They were consistently ragging the Oilers for playing so poorly, for Montreal pulling off that comeback, that the Oilers got out to that lead and they didn't deserve to have the lead to begin with. And then the broadcasters, as the game went on, were getting on the referees for calling the penalties that they did down the stretch in the third period, in particular that Josh Anderson unsportsmanlike conduct that allows the Oilers to tie the game at 5. But man, when I say that game had every emotion imaginable, and that's the beauty of the long 82 game season. A lot of these games over the course of the next 4 to 5 months of the regular season will fade into the recesses of your memory. You will remember individual moments or specific games for specific reasons. For the most part, you're going to remember individual performances. You'll remember Tomasek's first goal, maybe. You'll remember the goal Podkolzin scores to give them the lead because it's such a unique goal. Maybe you remember that Josh Anderson got a delay of game, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and gave the Oilers another chance to make something happen here. But by and large, in the course of a long season, little things will stick with you, big things won't. And in the course of these long seasons, we get preoccupied. And look, the Oilers have as high of expectations, if not the highest expectations, of any team in the entire NHL, point blank. And when you have high expectations, you need to get off to a good start to be able to meet them. And I know that's a bit oxymoronic. That's a bit ignorant of history. And someone like me who is a fervent student of history would tell you the Oilers each of the last 2 years have gotten off to pretty bad starts in October and then went on to make Stanley Cup finals. So getting off to a good start isn't necessarily a direct contributor to eventual success down the road in the regular season or in the postseason for that matter, but it gives you a baseline to build from, to operate from. And the goal for the Oilers is the loftiest it can be. The Oilers are fully in championship or bust mode for the next 3 seasons. Until Connor McDavid is once again a pending unrestricted free agent, the Oilers have the highest expectations in hockey, and they need to be willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And part of that is ironing out problems. It is figuring out weaknesses. It is minimizing weaknesses. It is playing to strengths. And as we're going to talk about in our second segment, right now, the Oilers are a team of individuals. They are a team of individuals that are making splash plays, that are making things happen and finding ways. And yes, it is a key point. Any good team finds ways to win games, especially when they're not playing well. Frankly, as I've gotten older, in particular in hockey and basketball, baseball, with such long regular seasons, you have to talk yourself into certain ideas. And in the long run, over the course of a long season, every team is going to have games where it doesn't perform particularly well. And make no mistake, yes, the Oilers won this game. They pulled off a stunning comeback. The mechanics, the process of doing that is not something you're going to be able to do all that often. The mechanics, the process, that's not something you can bank on. And that's why we harp on things like sustainability and stickiness. Can you keep playing the way you're playing to get where you want to? And the answer is unequivocally no. But by virtue of the Oilers' marquee players drawing some power play opportunities, converting on some power play opportunities, the Oilers were able to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And yes, it's exciting. It's fun. It's what makes sports so exhilarating. You know, I was here scribbling notes about how they're an atrocious hockey team. And now I get to sit here smiling and talking about how fun it is when they pull games out of nowhere, because that's why you play the games. Sometimes the inexplicable, the unexplainable, it happens in sports, and that's what makes sports so special. We are going to take our first break on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why for the first 50-ish minutes of this game, I was ready to start writing the Oilers off in the big picture. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it so easy to get started. You can connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by licensed doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter to you. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Hockey season is well underway, and there is no feeling better than getting out there to see your favorite team. My favorite feeling in the entire world is walking up the tunnel, up the few steps to the concourse, and having that view hit me. The arena floodlights, the scoreboard, the smell of beer, the smell of popcorn, the thumping loud music, and you get that feeling in that moment of being a kid again and getting taken back to the first time. And I still get that feeling every single time I go to a game, even now as an adult. But unfortunately, the ticket buying process now, it's become a real pain with queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump at checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where our friends at Game Time come in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. As you guys know, I've been to quite a few games over the last week or so. I went to Oilers Devils. I went to Rangers Wild. I went to Rangers Oilers. I'll probably be back in the mix for a Rangers or a Devils game relatively soon. And the only place I'm getting tickets for my friends and I is through the Game Time app. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the sections and Game Time picks the seats. You save big. In some markets, you can find NHL tickets for less than $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON. NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Thank you so much to everyone who is hanging out on this Victory Friday edition of Locked On Oilers. And yes, we will do our quick moment of gratitude for this win. And I want to make this a recurring thing because I am very preoccupied with trying to get to the bottom of everything, the context of everything, why things are important. And as Ferris Bueller once so eloquently said, life moves pretty fast if you don't stop and look around once in a while, and you might just miss it. We are dedicating hours and hours and hours of our weeks, of our months, of our years to this hockey team. And most of the time, in the context of your team's history, you're not going to win the championship. So you need to make those individual games, those weeks, those months, all that time spending mean something to you. You need to be able to take things away. Number one, David Tomasek on the sheet, first NHL goal, 29-year-old rookie, as one of my favorite follows on Twitter said. The David Tomasek Calder campaign starts now. Really encouraging, just good for the vibes that a guy who has been close more than once has one of the biggest discrepancies between expected goals and actual goals. So good to see him get on the sheet. Great to see Podkolzin's one of my favorite guys on this team. I just love the energy and the tenacity he plays with, scoring the goal the way he did. Remarkable. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins continuing the strong start to his season. Connor and Leon pulling some stuff out of the hat. Up until the meltdown when Cole Caulfield went crazy, I would have said Calvin Pickard should have been on this list as well. You got a goal from Adam Henrique in the 1,001 game club. So there's a lot of little positives to take away, but I have to rain on the parade now because for a good chunk of that game, the Oilers were playing disgusting hockey. And I wrote down a series of individual notes of things that stuck out to me. Number one, most importantly, Montreal's fast. And when you are playing a team that has more foot speed than you have to make a concerted effort to slow the game down, or you're going to end up playing defense the whole game. This is exactly what I had said going into the Devils game last Saturday. The Devils are a very fast foot speed team as well. Montreal has a lot of defensemen who are good at moving the puck between Dobson, Hudson, Mike Matheson. Yes, Mike Matheson is the pure chaos defenseman, but he's a strong skater and can move the puck relatively well. when the defenseman can break the puck out quickly, when you have forwards like Caulfield and Slavkovsky and Demidov who can skate and carry pucks through transition and get to the offensive zone with speed, it puts your defenders in difficult spots. It puts your goalie in difficult spots. So your responsibility as a team becomes, can we get the puck in deep? Can we force these guys to play defense? Can we minimize the amount of defense we need to play? That way we can capitalize when our opportunities do come. And for good chunks of this game, the Oilers couldn't buy zone time. They couldn't carry the puck into the zone. They couldn't dump it in and go get it. They were simply transition back and forth. They were doing the pacer test, if you remember that from gym class. They were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And when you're not getting zone time and you're not getting looks, that desperation starts to ramp up. And then that's where things start to break down. And I had said the other day, I said it in the intro here, when you're playing poorly, guys start trying to do things they're not good at. That's where the Belichick do your job thing comes from. Do what you are good at. Get the puck where you can make a play on it. And not everybody has the Connor early on skill set. And some guys, when it gets ugly, when it gets messy out there, they're going to fall back on what they know best, and their instincts are going to take over. And when you start playing as a bunch of individuals as opposed to a unit within structure, that's when it starts to feel like things are snowballing on you downhill. That's when it starts to feel like you're trying to swim against the tide. That's what the Oilers were doing for large chunks of this game. During that 3-minute window where Montreal scored 3 straight goals and ultimately culminated in 4 straight goals, it felt like the Oilers were moving in quicksand. Everybody's reactions were off. Cole Caulfield, who I thought had an incredible game. I think Caulfield has really come into his own over the last 2 years. I think Cole Caulfield absolutely needs to be on the American Olympic team, but we've got time for that discourse. Don't worry. The Canadiens have energy, and that is one thing I can give this Oilers team credit for. As much as they were losing their composure as Montreal mounted that comeback and got out to the multi-goal lead, the Oilers dug in. And that is something that a veteran team does. That is something that a good team does. And when you are trying to extrapolate positives out of games where there's more negatives than positives, finding a way to win under as adverse circumstances as you're going to come to, finding a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat, to force Montreal into some mistakes, and then you get Montreal to lose their composure. That is the sign of a team that still has growing to do. We know Montreal's a younger group. We know they want to break through. They want to announce they're here. And full transparency, we're about to do an ad read for FanDuel. I had bet the Canadiens in this game because I wanted to insulate my feelings. That way, if the Oilers lost, I would at least get a couple bucks out of it and feel a little bit better doing the show here, sulking over Montreal winning. The Oilers got out to that 3-1 lead, and then Montreal scored 1 goal, and I had the option to cash out. So I got some of my bet back, not all of it, and said, okay, that's fine. The Oilers are going to win this game. I got a little bit of my money back. We'll live. Then Montreal scored 4 straight goals. I felt very stupid that I had cashed out and not allowed my money to ride out. And then the Oilers came all the way back. That tells you what type of game this was. And feeling that momentum feeling is so fleeting. And you know what that Josh Anderson unsportsmanlike conduct reminded me of as far as momentum swings go? The booth review the LA Kings tried to initiate in the playoffs last year on the goaltender interference that was not goaltender interference, and that ultimately swung that first round series back in Edmonton's favor. That's what that delay of game, that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty was. And you saw Montreal, and Josh Anderson is a veteran player. He was on that team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals a couple years ago against the Lightning, who had beaten Vegas in the very funky 2021 playoffs. That's a guy who knows better. That's what makes that interesting from a narrative perspective. We are going to take our second and final break on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, do you have any idea what the Oilers are? Because I certainly don't. The NFL season is here, And FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use on the FanDuel app. I told you guys that anecdote about my experience watching the Oilers and Canadiens game on Thursday night. Coming up in the NFL this weekend, you've got some real stinkers like Jets, Bengals, Jake Browning against maybe Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields. The Jets 6.5-point underdogs. Are the Bengals 6.5 points better than anyone? It's a great question. You've got the D'Amico Ryans Bowl, the 49ers heading to Houston, where San Francisco are 2.5-point underdogs. And then a game the Giants desperately need if they want to stay in the conversation. The Giants, after beating the Eagles a couple weeks ago, are 7.5-point road underdogs down at the Link in what will be a frenzied atmosphere. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much more exciting. Which leads me to FanDuel's one question. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you so much to everyone who is hanging out on this Victory Friday edition of Locked On Oilers. And man, I don't know what to make of this team. Think about how insane this game was. Montreal scores first, 1-0 Montreal. The Oilers score 3 straight goals, 3-1 Edmonton. Montreal scores 4 straight goals, 5-3 Montreal. The Oilers win this game 6-5 in regulation. Utter insanity. And yes, I happen to agree with some of the TSM broadcast. Well, I do think it was a bit of grandstanding. I do think it was a bit of homerism. The penalty calls here were a little weak. I do think the one McDavid drew, he had gotten tripped earlier in the sequence. They didn't call it. It was close. The second time, I get why they called it. Could they have let the Josh Anderson thing, the unsportsmanlike, go? Yeah, probably, but they felt blood in the water, and sometimes the referees are unfortunately part of the story. As much as it frustrates me anytime Rich Eisen says it, when it comes to the officials in any sport, you cannot leave it in their hands. You need to play better than the officials officiate. And I'm sure there will be 1 or 2 Florida Panther fans who want to come into the comments who check in from time to time. And we'll relitigate, I think it was game 3, the one the Oilers took 1 million penalties in the third period, and I came on here and I berated the officials for losing control of the game and remind me my thoughts there about how the Oilers didn't play better than the officials officiated. And hand up, you got me. You're right. I did say that at the time. But this is a game that the Oilers and the Canadiens both had ample chances to win. And the way the Oilers played in this game was nothing short of impossible to understand. I wrote down a bunch of different things here. I said, the Oilers don't win puck battles because they're slow. Because they're slow, they're playing extremely tight and they don't have a great feel for the game. Because they don't have a great feel for the game, they have less synergy. There's less connectivity. Everything looks harder. Passes aren't as crisp. Guys aren't receiving passes as smoothly. Because guys are antsy, because they're jittery, they're forcing passes they don't need to. They're turning pucks over they don't need to. They are making low percentage plays because their nerves are creeping in, because they feel the gravity of the situation, because everything's discombobulated. You don't have the best positioning. Because you don't have the best positioning, you're more susceptible to making mistakes. And that's where you get to these types of welcome to the Thunderdome games, where you are wholly reliant on your best players making plays at the right time. And God bless them. The work you got out of Connor and Leon tonight, nothing short of remarkable. And yes, when you have the best players in the world, you get to say that. McDavid with a 3-assist night, Draisaitl picked up a goal. Sometimes having the better stars will be enough. And we talked about this a little bit the other day, the idea that a lot of the Oilers right now is just trying to get by. A lot of the mentality, a lot of the feel around this team right now is a group that is searching for how it's going to play, who is going to play with who. We'll see as far as Alec Regula, who may be back as soon as this weekend. Chris Knobloch had said Zach Hyman first week of November. Okay. You drop Zach Hyman onto the first line right wing spot with Connor. So what do we do everywhere else? And that starts to become the conversation around this team. Jake Wallman starting to ease back in. We might just do a Darnell Nurse is struggling episode once a week until he stops playing poorly, because once again, he made some god-awful plays. And yes, he had a couple nice plays. He set up the Mangiapane goal, and he did a really nice job down the stretch to set up one of the goals in the third period. But man, that is Darnell Nurse is probably the single most volatile player in the entire NHL. Because all of the stupid things he did leading up to the setup to the Mangiapane goal are things you would be mad at a rookie defenseman doing. When you are as aggressive as a pincher in the neutral zone as Nurse is, because you're going for the hit, and the amount of times he just outright misses, the amount of times he chases the puck away from the net front, leaves the net front open, and gives up a dangerous scoring chance, it is infuriating to watch. All of that said, he made a couple nice plays on the plays that won the Oilers this game, and that's what is so frustrating about trying to understand a team. Yes, it is only October. We don't have a lot of data to work with. We know the Oilers are better than they have played based on the talent they have collected. There's a question as to whether or not the talent they have collected meshes well and is going to get the most out of each other, but this is a group that has a lot of talent on paper, that has the capacity to play pretty good hockey if things work out for them. The question for Chris Knobloch becomes finding the ideal pairs, the ideal forward lines, and the ideal goalie split. Because right now, this team is entirely dependent on Connor and Leon going crazy. You know, it's like the two kids and kicking and screaming, get the ball up to the Italians. The Oilers are waiting around for Connor or Leon to draw penalties, to score goals, or to set up goals. And that'll work for good stretches of the regular season. Against the less talented teams, against the less mature teams, you can get by with Connor and Leon doing we're the best players in the world shtick. It's a good gimmick. I highly recommend other NHL teams attempt to get 2 of the 4 or 5 best players in the world on the same team. It makes your viewing experience and your chances of winning most nights pretty doable. But the Oilers have a lot of work to do, and that's okay because it's only October. But man, I'm starting to get stressed. That will do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. Thank you so much to everybody who made Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day, whether it's the end of the night for you and you're winding down before bed, or if you're watching this in the morning, listening to this in the morning at the gym, on your run, on the way to school, on the way to work, or at your desk, just trying to get through. Thanks for making me a small part of your entryway to the weekend. I cannot wait. I am very excited for the World Series. I will be pulling for the Blue Jays. The Roy Halladay jersey's coming out of the closet. I'll be riding with the Jays. Everyone have a safe and fun weekend. Be sure to check out Locked On NHL Game Night, breaking down every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned in June. Have a safe weekend. I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Until then, let's go Oilers.